Welcome to Accommodate This. Now, we all have limits in what we can do, how much we can handle, or how far we can be pushed. Yet society often glorifies endless resilience and expects everyone to operate at the same high capacity. And this overlooks a fundamental truth that each person's capacity is uniquely individualized. And exceeding those limits can have dire, long-lasting consequences, especially for neurodivergent individuals. It's time to cultivate greater empathy and respect for the diverse limits that define us. So, now that you know why we're here, let's get into the topic for this video: limits. Stress is more than just a feeling. It's the physiological wear and tear that our bodies endure in response to challenging experiences or stressors. When these experiences strain or overwhelm our capacity to adapt, we become stressed. In general, we know that long-term physiological activation in response to stress has been linked to changes in behavior, disruption of normal physiological functioning, and even disease. And yet each person's capacity for stress is deeply personal and influenced by a multitude of variables. Novelty, rate, intensity, and duration of input. So how new, fast, strong, or long-lasting a stressor is significantly impacts our ability to cope. For instance, if you're used to being in bumper-to-bumper traffic every time you drive, you might get used to it and just accept it as the way things are. But if you're not used to it, it can be quite frustrating to experience. And the longer you are in traffic, the more your stress can build. Personal interpretation. Our individual perception of an event can amplify or diminish the impact of stress. I'm not talking about your attitude or personal opinion about a situation. I'm talking about how your brain perceives the stressor, like if it sees it as dangerous but escapable, or unavoidable and life-threatening, or inconvenient and insignificant. The way your brain interprets the situation directly drives the level of your internal experience. Genetic and experiential factors. So our inherent biological makeup and past experiences shape our resilience and vulnerabilities. Mental health conditions run in my family, making me a bit more susceptible and vulnerable to mental illness than most people. And people often say you need to develop a thicker skin, meaning you shouldn't let things get to you so easily. However, my skin, so to speak, is genetically thinner than most. So developing sufficiently thick skin is more work for me than the average person, if not impossible. I'm like a teacup made of thin china, but if you treat me like I'm a bulky mug, I'm going to break. You have to be more delicate with china, right? It doesn't make sense to treat teacups like mugs. But what tends to happen is people treat autistics as though we should be mugs, and then get upset with us when we break. This is not okay, and yet it's how autistics are treated all the time. Don't shame the teacup, man. We will break and we will cut you. I'm just kidding. Just be gentle with us, okay? As for the experience factor, many autistics, like myself, experience a lifetime of abuse, bullying, and manipulation. And this not only takes a toll on our mental health, it makes it harder for us to trust others. It can discourage us from interacting with others at all. And that just leads to isolation and limiting our chances for making real connections and experiencing more richness in our lives. While acute stress triggers beneficial short-term responses like increased blood flow and decreased pain, prolonged stress is maladaptive. It can lead to chronic health issues such as metabolic syndrome or hypertension, and it impairs our brain's ability to function effectively. And that can lead to neuronal damage, cognitive impairment, and neurochemical imbalances. So let's talk about each of these. Neuronal damage. So prolonged stress can cause inflammation in the brain, which can damage brain cells. And certain proteins known as indoleamine 2,3 dioxygenase, or IDO, encourage inflammation and have been found to inhibit production of dopamine and serotonin, and have been found to deplete the precursors to serotonin. Quinolinic acid is found in greater volume within depressed patients, which is linked to reduced connectivity between brain regions linked to reward processing. This acid has been found to mediate inflammatory neurotoxicity and disrupt neural circuitry in depression. Furthermore, activated white blood cells secrete IL-17, which stimulates development and differentiation of Th17 cells. And Th17 cells are associated with depression and suicidality because they are found in higher volume in depressed patients. IL-17 also exacerbates neuronal loss in the basal ganglia, which is important for mood regulation. Brain shrinkage. Now, stress has also been shown to shrink various brain regions over time, including the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and emotional regulation, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning, decision-making, and impulse control, gray matter, involved in processing information, cognitive function, and emotional regulation, and white matter, which is essential for communication. Cognitive impairment. So changes in brain structure have real impacts on brain function, and these impacts can cause cognitive impairments such as difficulty focusing, making decisions, and regulating emotions. Neurochemical imbalances. So hormones and neurotransmitters like cortisol and norepinephrine, while vital in the short run, can have negative effects on cognitive function when constantly elevated. They can even lead to the development of mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, PTSD, and more. Our ability to cope with stress is deeply intertwined with our overall health, particularly sleep. So sleep acts like a street sweeper, clearing out neurotoxic proteins like amyloid, tau, and alpha-synuclein, which are linked to neurodegenerative diseases. When sleep is disrupted, this vital cleansing process is inhibited. So for many, including neurodivergent individuals, conditions like sleep apnea or PTSD, which often comes with insomnia and night terrors, can severely compromise restorative sleep. This not only increases susceptibility to infection due to a compromised immune system, but can also lead to a vicious cycle of migraine headaches, further impacting sleep, mood, metabolism, and immune response. Neurodivergent individuals often face unique challenges that can bring us closer to our limits more quickly than neurotypical individuals. Alexithymia. This common autistic trait makes it difficult to identify and describe one's own emotions, making it challenging to recognize when one is approaching a limit. It also makes seeking help difficult because inevitably the doctor, therapist, or what have you will ask us what's wrong, and we will struggle to identify what is wrong. And this seriously complicates our recovery. The differences in our brain structure contribute to different instincts, including different responses to stressors. And our brains literally hold onto cortisol longer and produce smaller volumes of good-feeling hormones when compared to neurotypicals. This makes us more vulnerable to trauma and makes it harder for us to recover from it. Not understanding unspoken social rules can make it difficult to assert boundaries or know one's rights in situations that push limits. Even when expressed, our limits are often disregarded. We are treated as though we are being disruptive. Our meltdowns are seen as tantrums. Our needs are invalidated and ignored because of the disconnect between neurodivergent experiences and neurotypical experiences, which makes it difficult for us to be understood by the majority. And if we have impairments in communication, especially those of us who are non-speaking, we can really struggle to advocate for our needs. Research suggests that conditions like autism spectrum disorder are characterized by an imbalance in mitochondrial processes. The mitochondria is an organelle within our cells, and the mitochondria is responsible for generating a majority of the energy needed to power the cell, so it's often called the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondrial dysfunction can lead to an insufficient energy supply to the brain, impairments in memory, and synaptic function. This can impact cell signaling, cell growth, cell death, and the maintenance of various organs such as the heart, liver, and brain. The limbic system, crucial for mood, motivation, and emotion regulation, can have abnormal function, leading to various stress disorders. Now, many autistics, for instance, are familiar with anxiety, PTSD, depression, dissociation, and selective mutism. The percentage of autistics experiencing trauma worthy of triggering PTSD, which is about 91%, underscores our heightened vulnerability. Inflammatory markers like IL-17, which are associated with depression, and proteins like indolamine 2,3-dioxygenase, which inhibit dopamine and serotonin production, further illustrate the biological underpinnings of mental health challenges and their impact on stress response. Just as some people have severe allergies to certain foods while others can consume them freely, or some are more susceptible to sunburn, or our internal capacities, physical, mental, and emotional, are not uniform. Consider the force required to break different objects. A balloon breaks with little force, while a baseball bat requires significantly more. The ease of breakage depends on numerous factors: the angle, surface area, bluntness, speed, repeated impacts, hydration, and underlying health. Well, similarly, people are not made of steel or have an immune system of gold. We are all made of different materials that give us different strengths and weaknesses. This fundamental truth about diverse capacities is often overlooked, especially in workplaces. Employers frequently assume everyone is equally capable and resilient, leading to harmful one-size-fits-all expectations. Let me tell you a story. Martha and Robert are both customer service representatives in a large company. They both are expected to work 40 hours per week. However, maybe Martha had several difficult calls all week, while Robert had mostly easy calls. Maybe Martha's car was in dire need of repairs and Robert's car was fully operational and had no problems. Maybe both Martha and Robert each have 3 kids at home and they have to make sure they get to school on time. However, Martha has a child with special needs that has to be dropped off and picked up at a private school that costs her extra money for him to attend, while all of Robert's kids can take a school bus to the free public school. Despite both Martha and Robert having worked in the same position for the same amount of time, Martha makes 80% of what Robert makes, which makes it difficult for her to pay for family necessities. And because of her special needs child, she incurs more doctor bills than Robert. Their boss had asked people to work the previous Saturday to address a backlog in paperwork, but neither Martha nor Robert were able to do so because of family responsibilities. And then the following week, their boss is very vocal about their opinions on the matter, spouting microaggressions toward those who were not able to work on Saturday. On top of that, both Martha and Robert had to ask to stay home one day that week because of the flu being passed around at the school some of their children attend together. It also happens to be Martha's time of the month, so her hormones are all out of whack and she's struggling to maintain the cheery disposition expected of all customer service reps. This results in her boss lecturing her to change her attitude or find another job, which is another level of stress she didn't need. Meanwhile, Robert is found taking extra breaks and pushing difficult callers back into the queue for others to handle, and nobody is holding him to account. So with that story, do you think Martha is capable of doing her best? Do you think Robert is doing his best? How much of this is really in their control or based on choices they've made? You can see how easy stressors can add up, and despite very few of these being work-related, they still compound one another. Some of these stressors are constant and continual, while others are temporary. The length of time you are under stress impacts your ability to handle more stress. So if your employer is completely ignoring all of your outside stressors, they aren't being realistic. And if they are avoiding fairness at work, like not paying them equally, or allowing Robert to take more breaks, not evenly distributing the work, and so on, then they are contributing to the stress of their staff. Expecting Martha to maintain the same cheer as Robert, who faces fewer hurdles and receives preferential treatment, is simply unrealistic and unfair. Rigid policies like expecting identical work hours, limited days off, and standardized holidays disregard individual needs and external stressors. Unrealistic stress management, like assuming everyone can regulate stress equally or has the same minimal stressors, is both naive and damaging. And then when individuals struggle under immense pressure, they are often blamed for breaking, and requests for accommodations are viewed as burdens. The pervasive myth that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is a dangerous lie. Sometimes what doesn't kill you can seriously break you, leading to long-term physical and psychological trauma. In my previous job, my boss made my work environment so toxic, it has damaged me in ways that I'm still struggling to recover from 2 years later. I don't want to get into it, but suffice it to say that it was a bit like treating a soft cupcake as a cutting board. That kind of treatment, where individuals are denied resources, forced to work with bullies, and then blamed for their struggles, is not only ineffective, but deeply unethical. It's time for a paradigm shift. Employers, friends, family members, and society must stop glorifying relentless strength and endurance while shaming vulnerability. We need to recognize that we are human beings, not robots. We're not manufactured identically. We have diverse strengths, weaknesses, and ever-changing capacities. External realities impact performance. Grief, medical conditions, medication adjustments, and challenging personal circumstances don't just disappear when someone clocks in. Expecting individuals to leave their entire reality at the door is absurd. Just as a waitress wouldn't overfill every coffee cup without considering current volume, we shouldn't expect everyone to have the same mental and emotional capacity without considering their current stressors. Asking if someone is ready for more before piling on additional demands is a more responsible and compassionate approach. Even bridges have limits. Ignoring the structural integrity, support, and capacity of a bridge will inevitably lead to its collapse. Similarly, ignoring the unique makeup and limits of individuals will lead them to breaking down. Instead of expecting people to conform to some nebulous model of perfection, we need to equip them with the tools and resources they need to succeed. We must show compassion when stressors become overwhelming, rather than retaliating with more pressure or blame. For neurodivergent individuals, this means fostering supportive rather than restrictive environments that allow for regulation, offer accommodations, and respond with patience and understanding instead of discipline and shame when we fall short. When we respect individual limits and cultivate genuine empathy, we empower people to thrive. It's not about being stronger, but about creating environments where everyone, with their unique capacities and vulnerabilities, can truly do their best. I hope you found this video helpful, and until next time, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, like, and subscribe to see more videos like this, or click on the video you see here to continue watching.